Hello, everyone. Did you do any practice last week? You know, we were doing the rhythm and the speed. We were experimenting with how to mess around with speed. You could get really quickly. You could go much, much slower. And the point of last week, we were playing with speed. So that's what we were doing last week. And we could get the faster with the excitement and also slowing it right down. So that was what we were covering last week, experimenting with speed. Do you remember I also mentioned about the fact that we are hardwired for sound, for novelty? We're hardwired for novelty. And this is in any of our senses. Those of you who are parents will remember rocking little one. And as soon as you stopped rocking, what happened? We wake up. That's obviously from a movement perspective. The same goes for smell. How many times have you walked past somewhere like Body Shop or Lush or other shops that actually spray out aromas into a mall or a shopping centre, and you've gone past and thought, whoa, that's strong. If you've actually gone in, it takes very little time before you don't notice it at all, because your brain's gone, oh yeah, I know about that, and has shut it off in terms of being conscious about it. Well, the same goes for sound. We mentioned it last week with speed, but it's also a case of a constant sound will really lull you into sleep. So this is where pausing comes in. Now, it's following on a bit from last week with the power of modulation with your speed. But pausing is really important, and using it consciously. Now, if you lose your way when you're giving a talk because you don't have notes, and let's face it, the best talks appear to be off the cuff. They're the spontaneous ones. You're not reading it as such. You may know it very, very well, but there may be occasions when you go, what's next? That is when, rather than do the face that goes, oh, I've lost my way, develop that thinky look, sort of Rodin and his thinking man style. And then come up with the next bit. Now, in that time, you may be paddling furiously under the surface, but on top, you are gliding like the beautiful swan. And your audience will not know that you lost your way. As long as what comes next is worth waiting for, then that, what we call pre-pause, is enough to bring people out of that sense of, oh, this constant sound going on here, I can just switch off. Not only have you varied the speed, but this is part of the speed thing. There's a break in transmission. Oh, what's going on? This is where your conscious mind, or the conscious mind of your audience, suddenly comes back on track because, hello, there's silence. What am I missing? So this is where you can use the pause specifically to either gather your thoughts because you've forgotten what you were going to say, brings you back on track, or there's something really important coming. And you've given that alerter, that cue to both the conscious and the unconscious mind of your audience that something important's coming up. Listen in, come back to me. So that's the importance of what we call the pre-pause. Giving that little bit of, hello, come back, alerter to a really important point. Can you see how important this is? Obviously, I've just done it there. That's the first version of a pause. You can use it to find your way, come back on track yourself, and there are some memory aids around that, which I've covered in previous sessions. But if you want me to do some more on that, do put something in the reply for this session. So if you are losing your way, rather than let the world know through your face, develop that thinky look, remember where you are, and come up with the next word rather than the you fill it in with that and everybody knows you lost it. Okay. Apparently, statistically, those pre-pauses make you look more intelligent. How cool is that? You might have lost your way, and yet your audience thinks, oh, they are so knowledgeable. They know what they're talking about, because you've given that pause, that space to bring back your audience, and then to move forward with what you want to say. And as I said, that's also from finding your way, and specifically because you've got an important point to make. It's the, hello guys, this is important, alerter, the pre-pause. And then you've got the post-pause. This can be sort of also known as the drop the mic moment. This is when you have made a profound statement. It doesn't actually have to be that profound, but it's something that you want to really let land. And can you see how I was slowing that down to warn you that this is really important? And then there's a break at the end, because then again, you're alerting your audience to, that was really important. You need to think about that. You're giving that extra space for the brain to go, oh, okay, I've got to remember that. When you do one of these post pauses, the idea is you also are holding space for your audience to take that in. And by the holding space, you are going to stay in the exact spot that you were in. If you have a gesture that you were using at the time, you hold it. And then you carry on, because that's your audience's cue, both from the sound perspective and also visually. Okay, that was important. You've now had a real golden nugget. We're now going to go on to the next point. These are really important post pauses. When you are nervous as a speaker, very often you've gone on to the next thing in your mind and you don't let that one land. So this is where what we're talking about at the moment is part of pillar number 4 of the nine pillars of influential communication, the power of your voice. But in this, I'm also adding in presence, which is pillar number 6. When you are present to your audience and present to what you're saying, that post pause, that break between, this is something that's really important. And you can also use it as a guidepost to, I'm coming onto something new now, almost like turning the page. Yeah. When you use those pauses consciously, it gives your audience time to take that in, turn the page, and you, as a speaker, to mentally move on. We're going to talk about tone in the next session. Again, looking at how you're using your voice. So this has been a breakdown of some of the elements of using your voice. I didn't mention it this time around, but when I have spoken about this before, roughly 40% of how you convey your message is done vocally with this wonderful little voice instrument that you have in your throat. So looking after it, knowing how to use it consciously to convey those beautiful words that are coming from your mind. This is really important, to have that concept of consciously using your voice. Now, we've covered so far speed, how you can convey excitement and also slowing things down for emphasis. And that post-pause, did you get it? The emphasis was really important. So you got that pre-pause that you're thinking about, drawing the people's attention to something. This is an alerter, and you can also use that as a way of getting yourself back on track. Pre-pause, post-pause, all part of using your voice. As I said, this is pillar number 4 in the 9 pillars of influential communication. If you want to know more about that, message me. Okay, so next week, we are going to talk a bit more about, again, part of the power pillar. We're going to talk about tone and consciously using the tone of your voice. It's something that we do automatically, but I want to take it out of that realm of autopilot and look at it consciously. Now, fun this week, assignment, playtime, if you will. Start pausing and pause in some unusual places and see what you get as a result. There are a number of speakers, a number of broadcasters. Okay, there's one in particular. There's a British broadcaster, somebody who's part of the BBC News, who pauses in unusual places. When he's speaking, he groups his words together in an unusual way. And to start with, I found that irritating. But then the more I thought about it, the more it drew my attention to the fact that he was saying things rather strangely. But it made me curious as to what he was saying. Now, I don't know whether he's doing this consciously or not. If you're interested to know who it is, again, message me and I can share that with you. There are other speakers who will give little packets of information. They'll give a little. Tony Blair was a great example of this. Now, I know he's been out of British politics for quite a while now, and obviously off the world stage. But he was one who would say a little phrase and then give a break. Again, it got irritating if you wanted to say, well, for heaven's sakes, just get on with it. But the reason I'm saying this is I'm asking you to play with it this week. I'm inviting you to play with what we did last week with the speed, the slowing up, the slowing down, the speeding up. And this week, add into that pausing. There you go. That was a good pre-pause. Play around with it. And like I said to you last week, grab your phone, record yourself, do it on Zoom, go back and look at it with the eye of critique. Not critical, critique. How much fun did you have? Where could you change this up? And try it out with people around you. Use those pauses. See what a response you get. Particularly if there's something important you want to mention. Play around with the pausing. Play around with the speed. Have fun with it. Next week, we look at tone. Ready? Have an amazing week. Bye from me.